Welcome to Study Guide 1 for Unit 2, and in this study guide we will cover prime numbers, composite numbers, factors, multiples, and prime factorization. So it's important to remember what a prime number and a composite number are. So prime numbers are when a number only has two factors, one in itself. Some examples of that are 7, 3, 2, 11, 19. All of these numbers cannot be divided equally by any other whole number. So for example, 2 times 1 is the only way you can get to 2. And 1 times 11 is the only way you can multiply to get to 11. A composite number is a number that has more than two factors. So for example, 6. You could do 1 times 6, or 2 times 3, 15, 3 times 5, or 1 times 15. 24 has a lot of factors that go in it. So those are all composite numbers. It's important to point out that the number 1 does not belong in either of these lists. Prime factorization is writing a number as a product, but only using its prime factors. An easier way to remember that is a factor tree. And here is an example. We figure out one way to get to 60 using multiplication. And one way that comes to mind is 20 times 3. And we will circle 3. If you remember in class, we called that a prime fruit, because 3 is a prime number, so we'll circle it. 20 is a composite, so that gets split, and we can split that into 2 and 10, or 5 and 4. And we will circle 2 because that's prime fruit. And let's break up for 10, and we can use 2 and 5, and both of those will get circled. Okay, now at this point we go ahead and collect just the fruit because we're all done separating our composite numbers. So we have 2 times 2, so we have 1, 2, times 3 times 5. And then we can take it one step further. Since there are two 2's that we're multiplying, we can call that 2 to the second power times 3 times 5. And either one of these answers would be acceptable. This is usually the way we write it, but if you put the first one, you would be right. So that's the prime factorization of 60. Let's try another number. What if we had to find the prime factorization of 90? We can break that up into 9 times 10, and we can break 9 up, because that is composite, into 3 times 3, and we'll notice that 3 is a prime, and so isn't this 3. So we can break up 10 into 2 times 5, and both of those again are prime. Now going through and collecting our fruit, we have 1, 2, we have 2 3's, and we have 1 5. So here is our prime factorization of 90. Okay, I've put 2 more on the screen here that I want you to try. So take a minute, maybe pause it here, figure out what the prime factorization of 80 and the prime factorization of 75 will be, and then come back and check your answer. So pause it here. Okay, and we're back. And here are the 2 answers. 80 becomes 2 to the 4th power times 5, and 75 is 3 to the 5th power, 3 times 5 to the 2nd power. Now your trees might look slightly different, but you should end up with the same prime factorization at the end. So if it's not, double check your math in there, okay? Our second topic on the quiz is greatest common factor. So to do a problem like this, we list out the factors of the 2 numbers, or 3 numbers, or 4 numbers, or however many I ask you. So the factors of 16 are all the numbers that go into 16. So those are 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. The factors of 20 are 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. Now I will go through and circle what they have in common. So we get 1, they both have 2, they both have 4, and that's it. Now I will look for what they have the greatest, and that is 4. So 4 is the greatest common factor of 16 and 20. I know that some of us get confused with factors and multiples, which is why I use the giant F for factor. And we write our numbers going sideways, kind of like the arms of an F. So I'm going to list the factors of 30. We have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30. Factors of 10, 1, 2, 5, and 10. Now the factors they have in common, 1, 2, 5, and 10. So we say that our greatest common factor, or GCF, is 10. Okay, go ahead and try to find the greatest common factor of these sets. Pause the video here, and then I'm going to come back and I'll give you the answers and you can check your work. Okay, here are the first 3. So the GCF of 2 and 18 is 2, GCF of 35 and 49 is 7, and the GCF of 22 and 9 is 1. Real quick, do you remember what it's called when two numbers only have 1 as a common factor? It's called relatively prime. That means the only common factor is 1. All right, and here we have the bottom 3 problems, and it's a little messy, I apologize. 60 has quite a few factors, but you have the greatest common factor of 60 and 40 is 20. The greatest common factor of 8 and 24 is 8, and the greatest common factor of 9 and 21 is 3. So if you're missing one of those, or in the previous 3 problems, you might want to go back, check your lists, compare them to the list I have up here, and see what you've missed. Okay? Similar to factors, multiples, I've used this giant M for multiple. And then I write those numbers going down. And hopefully that'll help people from not being confused between factors and multiples, because it does happen quite a bit. So for multiples, here I need the least common multiple of 10 and 4. So I'll use my giant M, and I'll put in a 10 and a 4. Draw a little line, kind of make a T-chart. I'll list the first few multiples of 10 being 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and then I'll stop there. Now I'll list some multiples of 4. We have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. As soon as I get a match, I can stop because I'm looking for the least common multiple. Now there'll be many multiples. This list will go on forever, and you'll have 20, 40, 60. I mean, anything, now that we're counting by 20s. All of those will be common multiples of 10 and 4. So we want the least, which is 20. Think of the multiples as the tables. So on one side, I'm listing the 10 tables. On the other side, I'm listing the 4s tables. And I keep making lists until I find a number they have in common. Here are 3 sets I'd like you to find common multiples for. So I'll start you off by putting in that M for multiple. Draw our lines. I'll go ahead and try to find the least common multiple of those sets, and then come back here and see if you got it right. Okay, well, how'd you do? The least common multiple of 2 and 9 is 18. Least common multiple of 10 and 6 is 30. And the least common multiple of 5 and 20 is 20. Well, that's all I have for this quiz, those 3 little topics, and I think you'll do pretty good. Good luck.